You're up there.
Good afternoon, class. My presentation is on drugs, fun for the whole family. Now, now 72% of you thought that the drug laws in this country were too strict. I agree. Now, what I'm going to say to you today, you might be thinking, well, I already think they're too strict. How are you going to convince me of anything? I'm going to push you to more of an extreme. And those of you who don't think it's too strict, hopefully I can push you just even a tiny bit. Good. So drugs. Drugs are a variety of substances. Today we're going to talk about drugs, specifically psychoactive drugs, or those that alter the consciousness. Now, this here is a picture of what I assume can be heroin, but psychoactive drugs can be as common as nicotine or caffeine. So it really varies. There's a wide range of them. But for the most part today, we're going to be talking about illicit drugs, or drugs that are illegal. Now, addiction. Addiction is an awful thing. I think we can all agree on that. But I view it as not a choice, but a disorder, a mental disease. So in this country, we like to lock up people who we believe are addicted to things instead of treating them with rehab or things of that nature. So right here, you can see on the slide, there's a healthy brain and a healthy heart. Now, on the other side is a brain of a cocaine abuser, and on the other side is someone with heart disease. Now, if you look at both, they both have a decreased metabolism, which means they're not functioning at a proper level. If this heart right here is not functioning at a proper level and it's known as diseased, and this brain right here is not functioning at a proper level, why are they different? So that is an important factor into the rest of my speech, viewing addiction as a disorder rather than a choice. There is science to back it. Good. So, the American system. Here in the United States, we have great fun laws. Some of our drug laws, however, are sort of out of whack. Now, when people get caught with a substance in our country, they normally will be at least fined, depending on what it is. If it is a higher schedule substance, they will be put in jail for a corresponding amount of time. Now, even users, people who are not selling drugs, people who are just using drugs, because they could be smoking weed, they could be doing heroin, it could be serious or it could be not so serious. All the same will all still receive a punishment. Now, when they are locked up in prisons and given no treatment besides just to be in a prison environment and get let back out, normally the same thing repeats itself. No one really gets better, and millions of dollars in taxpayer money goes to waste. So, the treatment here is normally left for the rich, left for people who can afford it. And a lot of addicts, by nature, are not rich, and that's why they've turned to addiction. So, many of them do not get treatment. Even the treatment plans here for the rich aren't always beneficial and do not work out. Now, this is the big part of my speech. This is where it gets interesting. Decriminalization. So, by definition, decriminalization is not making drugs legal. By no means am I saying the government should start selling heroin and you should be able to go pick up some cocaine at your local drugstore. But it does mean that when someone is caught with something, or when they commit an act that is decriminalized, they are not punished for it. They are not sent to jail. No matter what drug, that is the most important part of this. No matter what drug it is, it must be decriminalized. It could be weed, it could be heroin. They all need to be decriminalized, as crazy as that might sound. So before you tune me out completely, I'm going to move on to my next example. The Portuguese system. So the country that I took this whole paper off of, I based it around their laws. They have been extremely successful with decriminalizing every single drug. Every single drug. In 2001, Portuguese decided that they needed to make all drugs a non-criminal offense, possessing all drugs. Now, the reason they did this was because they had one of the worst drug problems in the world. There were thousands and millions of people in the streets, addicted, poor, because when Portugal lost all of its colonies, many of the natives came home. So one person had a radical idea that if they viewed addiction in a different way, if they didn't view it as those people as being criminals, but rather people who needed help, they could change the system. Now, overdose deaths, you might think, oh, well, those are going to go up. People can do drugs without fear of punishment. Well, they've actually dropped. and so has HIV and AIDS rates, because users are now provided with safe places to use drugs and needles. Now, this is not to say that you can just be selling drugs in the open, because that is still not allowed. If you are trafficking drugs or selling them, you will get thrown into jail. But if you are using drugs, different. You will have a different outcome. So the way they break it down, if you get caught with drugs in Portugal, is they'll take you in. Sometimes they'll just take the drug if it's a small amount. Sometimes they'll take you in and they will talk to you. Now, I had a video that I wanted to show, but I completely forgot to upload it, so just imagine this. A drug user walks in. They could have just been caught with weed or marijuana, but either way, they'll sit down with a psychologist and talk to them. And normally there can be a social worker there too, maybe a doctor, and they'll just answer some questions and talk. And then that person, the psychologist right there, will decide whether they need a treatment plan or whether they just get a warning and they're good to go. So for stuff like marijuana, in the one video that I had, the guy sat down, they talked to him, gave him a warning, and he gave him the number of a rehab center if he wanted it, and that's it. Now, if you go in there and you have heroin, they might, tell you need some help and give you a rehab. And the addiction rates there have also been staggeringly diminished, which is great. The prison population has also been cut down, and all the spending that they were using to lock up addicts has been given back to the people or used on things that matter. So they view it as a mental issue. It's a very different ideology there. No jail time ever if you are a user unless you're caught trafficking. And most everyone in the country really likes this system. It's been great for the people, and it's not bringing new drugs to kids. Actually, rates of teen drug use have also been diminished, which is surprising as well, even to me. Good. So here is a nice graph for us. Drugs rarely kill anyone in Portugal. Here you have a ton. It's hard to see these other countries. I'll point some out for you. Here's the European Union, Germany, Lithuania, Estonia is down here, Norway, and Sweden even. Portugal's here. And this is for drug-induced deaths of people 15 to 64 per million population. So the rate of addiction, the rate of drug overdoses there is so far down from all these other countries. And Portugal used to be down here. So even though decriminalizing drugs may seem like something completely radical, crazy, or idiotic, it can have its benefits. Sometimes drastic measures are needed for drastic situations. So if we intend to combat the drug problem we have in our country, I believe we need to decriminalize all drugs. I hope I've helped you rethink this today, and maybe you can change your mind.